Used the Rose Garden to be able to get a substitute for these rallies.
Yeah, he also used the Rose Garden as a backdrop for an interview with CBS. Former colleague here, Catherine Herridge.
Life-saving lessons. We're talking masks next.
He said something similar to that before, but this raised a little eyebrows after that interview. Take a listen.
Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people. What a terrible question to ask. So are white people. More white people, by the way. More white people.
Amy, what about that?
Well, it's actually not the case. As a percent of their population, African Americans are killed more often or injured or arrested, pulled over than white Americans. So factually, that's incorrect.
That's about three times.
Also, yeah, and when you listen to what swing voters are saying, I've been talking to a lot of consultants, especially those who are doing work in suburban areas. What they'll tell you is the support that suburban voters have for the Black Lives Matter movement has increased substantially since 2016. They also are not interested in protecting the Confederate flag or Confederate monuments. Now, they do take a line, they do draw a line at some things that they feel like are going too far.
Right.
But those are two things that the president should not want to get in a battle over with suburban voters.
But then I only have 30 seconds. That whole effort about statues or flags, and he calls it a matter of free speech, is it powerful politically?
Well, I think the president here, is speaking, I assume, in total numbers and not in percent or per capita. But when it comes to the Confederate side of things, I think the president has a knee-jerk reaction that whenever you put something like that in front of him that he feels smells of political correctness, he's going to push back against it. He believes that helps him with his base.
All right, panel, a little different today. Thank you very much. A big shakeup tonight among mainstream media over political censorship. New York Times opinion section editor BARI Weiss is leaving, and she is not going quietly. Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, shows us tonight. Good evening, Howie.
Good evening, Brett. In a scathing resignation letter, BARI Weiss, an opinion editor at the New York Times, says she's been constantly bullied by her own colleagues. They've called me a Nazi and a racist. Some, she says, publicly smear me as a liar and a bigot on Twitter. With no fear that harassing me will be met with appropriate action, they never are. This environment yields what Weiss calls self-censorship. Why edit something challenging to our readers when we can assure ourselves of job security and clicks by publishing our 4,000th op-ed arguing that Donald Trump is a unique danger to the country and the world. And the departure gets personal. Weiss complains in the note to publisher A.G. Sulzberger that he and other executives did nothing while privately praising her as courageous, and that some friendly colleagues see a new McCarthyism there. Weiss, a former Wall Street Journal opinion editor, is a controversial writer and self-described centrist who has made some errors, but also complained about being pilloried by the social media mob.
Saying that I am offended is a way of making someone radioactive. It's a way of smearing their reputation.
Weiss was critical when Sulzberger ousted editorial page editor James Bennett for publishing that column by Republican Senator Tom Cotton on urban riots, but only after a backlash led by African-American staffers. The acting opinion editor promised today the Times will keep publishing voices, experiences, and viewpoints from across the political spectrum. But Weiss writes that pieces not explicitly promoting progressive causes run only after every line is carefully massaged, negotiated, and caveated. BARI Weiss says Twitter is the ultimate editor for the New York Times, but her words, her harsh words, speak to a media culture far beyond the time.
Before they start. Get TheraWorks Relief today. Available in stores every